This is it. Don't get scared now. Stay tuned. Hey YouTube, and welcome to my Friday the 13th special, part 4, the final chapter. In case you was wondering what that were in the intro, it was my Jason Voorhees hockey mask. And I made my big YouTube debut by reviewing this one. Anyway, less of that. So, welcome to my Friday the 13th special. A happy Friday the 13th to you lot that are watching. So, I thought to mark this special, well, first of all, it says it's the final chapter, but all it is this is the only one I'm going to do this year, because this is the only Friday the 13th we got this year. But luckily, last year we were treated to 3 Friday the 13th in February, March and November. So after today, the next Friday the 13th will be in January 2017. So, to be honest, it's not that long away, in 2017 for it. Okay, so today I am going to be doing a triple helping of things. First, I'm going to review, my favourite one of my favourites anyway, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, because it's hitting 30 this year, and I thought, hey, why not review it? I rewatched it last night, so I'm going to go and wait, no, I didn't watch it last night. No, but I did watch it earlier this week. See, I've done separate recordings, so I'm not rushing or doing it all in one or waiting for it to upload or whatever. So, yeah. And then that's going to be followed by a review of Freddy vs. Jason, because that hits its 13th. Yes, its 13th year. Followed by a top 10 voted by the Horror Amino community on the actors who have portrayed Jason Voorhees. So, let's get it going. First, I bring you my review on Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Let's see. So, the review of Friday the 13th Part 6 hits its 30th anniversary this year. So, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, written and directed by Tom McLaughlin, something, starring Thorne Matthews, CJ Graham, Dan Bradley and Jennifer Cook. So, basically, I like to call parts 4, 5 and 6 the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, because it features that protagonist, Tommy Jarvis. So, after part 4, him, being mentally unstable after the events of that one, and then part 5, we see Tommy going to, finally be rid of Jason once and for all, and digs up his grave, and just to make himself feel better, he stabs the body of Jason with a metal rod, which works as a lightning conductor, jolting Jason back to life, making him a badass Frankenstein-like zombie. And it was that one where Jason became, super strong and badass and stuff. But yes, not only is its 30th anniversary this August, I know we're a couple months away yet, but it's Friday the 13th. Jason, this is like where Jason, this is like one of my favourite sequels in the Friday series. It's one film away from starring Kane Hodder as Jason, but in this one he's portrayed by CJ Graham and Dan Bradley. I think Dan Bradley is a stunt double. Anyway, yes, but when Jason comes back to life, he realises that Camp Crystal Lake has been renamed Camp Forest Green. But to Jason it will always be Crystal Lake. Anyway, he goes out on his killing rampage, butchering, paintballers, and at his best at killing camp counselors. This is like the only film in the series where the camp successfully opens and we get kids into the summer camp. But of course, all that's bound to go tits up when Jason's on the prowl, with his machete. Also, Tommy Jarvis, he's arrested by the police. He goes out and then he gets out. So yeah, he goes out and gets Jason. I like that scene. Another thing I liked was the soundtrack. It had a great soundtrack from Alice Cooper, with his song "The Man Behind the Mask." Now I like that song, and he some of his songs feature in that too, like Teenage Frankenstein and that. So yes. Another thing was Jason's look. It was basic. He wore the work shirt, the work trousers still. He had his iconic hockey mask with the slit in it. No chevrons down the cheek parts, but still there on the forehead piece. Also in it, Tommy, he stands up to Jason. He confronts him head on this time, and even plans to make him suffer at the bottom of the lake by chaining him to a rock, then holding him down the lake. And of course, Jason, this is also spoiler alert, but the film was like over 30 years old, so I imagine a lot of Friday fans will have seen this by now. Yeah, Jason was like imprisoned at the bottom of the lake with one eye open. Also in the finale, they try and get him with the propeller to make him go down the lake. They actually catch a chunk of his mask and it breaks off. So that is why in part 7, chunk of the mask is missing and we can see Jason's jaw, as he's also rotten and decayed as well under the water, but he's still mean. He's still the mean fiend hockey mask machete wielding killing machine. But yep. Also, Jason Voorhees is actually 70 years old. 70 years old this June. It's his 70th. Yeah. So that's something for him to look forward to. But unfortunately, the last time it was on Friday the 13th of June was about a few years ago now. 2 years ago. And also this is the early Friday the 13th of the year. So, yes, that's what I liked about it. What did I not like? It's a bit hard to tell because it's one of my favourites. Yeah, also, Jason, this is where he gets like the bad utility belt. Not just with a machete, but hunting knives and stuff, Bowie knives and that. Yes, this is where, Jason really becomes, iconic. Because of his strength and his killing wits and that. Also, to him it's Crystal Lake and it's his home. Also, you can't be trespassing on his land. Also, don't have sex, don't have drugs, don't have alcohol, nothing. Even scares the kiddies off and they all get sent home the next day. Yes, that's right, don't worry, kids don't die in this. They just get really big boo-boos and they're scared. But the teenagers, I'm afraid they're in for it. Anyway, Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives. I'm going to give that a... I'm going to give it, about an 8.25 out of 10. An 8.25 out of 10. That's just my personal opinion alone. Everyone's entitled to the different one. Now, how about we get to the next part of this special by reviewing Freddy vs. Jason. Let's go. And now for the review on Freddy vs. Jason. As you know, I have a different top on because I'm doing this over 3 days. So this is, it's all pre-recorded. Okay, so Freddy vs. Jason. Is written by Damien Shannon and Mark Swift, directed by Ronnie Yu, starring Robert Englund, Ken Kirzinger, Monica Keena or something. Kelly Rowland and Catherine Isabel and some other supporting cast stars. So, yes, after the events of Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, we have wanted the crossover ever since we saw that arm come out from the ground and take Jason's mask into hell. Now, before we had all that, Freddy vs. Jason, both of them each snuck in one more installment each in their franchises. And of course, when it came to Jason Goes to Hell, Paramount sold the rights of Jason to New Line. But yes, this was the final showdown which we had all been craving for 10 years, and fans' patience were greatly rewarded with Freddy vs. Jason. So Jason is summoned from hell to go to Springwood and go to Elm Street and kill some teens to strike fear in them and make them remember Freddy Charles Krueger. So Jason is like his puppet. And of course, when Jason has done what he needs to do, he's then sort of in Freddy's way. So the next thing, they go from Freddy's puppet to fighting each other, and they are scrapping it out. I mean, when I was watching, every time I watch Freddy vs. Jason, I'm like, Team Jason! Because, Team Jason! He's badass in this. He's tall, he's big. I like the look of Jason in this one. But there are things that could have been better on him. I'll get to that in a moment. So yeah, they have a big showdown. Like, one part they get Jason goes under and he's in Freddy's world and he's in Springwood. But then they take Jason, our protagonists, Laurie and a few of the others, take Jason out of Springwood and take him back home to Crystal Lake, and also I wonder, Jason, he walked all the way from Crystal Lake to Springwood. So yeah, but when they go to Crystal Lake, Laurie goes under to get Freddy and try and bring him back to the real world, which they do. And of course, everyone knows that Freddy in our world is useless. He's powerless. He's mortal. The only thing he has to defend himself is his bladed glove. And of course, Jason just thrashes him, kicks his ass in style, and I love it. I mean, I do think a few of the scenes in the fight and that were a bit like cat and mouse, with the whole gas tanks, ramming Jason, knocking him flying and stuff. But yeah, you don't fuck with Jason on Crystal Lake. No one does, not even Freddy Krueger. And I loved it how, we thought Freddy had won, but then, bam! Jason comes out and knocks Freddy down on his knees. And Jason is probably one of the very few people to ever do that to him. So, things that I didn't like in the film, I do think that they could have got a director who had... My mum doing tea downstairs. I do think that, it could have been a bit more better if they got a director that had a better knowledge of the characters. Ronnie Yu, he only saw A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th Parts 1. He never saw any of the others, so I think he didn't know the characters as well as us fans did. I also think, now Kane Hodder said it was his dream to be Jason and fight Freddy, but unfortunately that dream was crushed when they didn't want him back. They wanted a bigger person, a taller person, and he just walked slow like a zombie. Ken Kirzinger. Now, I do like the look of Ken Kirzinger, and I did sort of like him as Jason, but I do think that the role should have been for Kane Hodder, because it was his role. By then, he'd owned the role. He played Jason in at least 4 films before. He should have been Jason in this one. Other than that, I thought the film was fairly decent and okay. I just loved the scenes between Freddy and Jason. I weren't really keen on the story much, with our protagonist trying to work out what the hell's going on, how do we kill Freddy and that. But I do like the fights between Freddy and Jason. Another thing I like is that party in the cornfield when they're all dancing about, Jason twists one guy's head off, and his mate just pours beer on him and lights him up, going, "Burn, motherfucker!" But Jason soon gives him a good hiding. One of my favourite kills in that film have to be the whole bed kill, where he stabs the guy and then folds him in half on the bed. And the character was a bit of an arsehole anyway, so, I didn't really care for him that much. Also, another kill was when Jason just threw his machete already on fire, and he just went through that fat guy that set him on fire, and then he just, spat out blood. Then Jason's going on his rampage through the cornfield, and then slashes some beer tanks and, puts out the fire and stuff, and then he's out killing and stuff. I just love Jason. I love Jason, and that's why I'm doing this Friday the 13th special today. So yeah, my final thoughts now. Freddy vs. Jason. I love the film. It's especially also there's an alternate ending. Yeah, there is an alternate ending where we see Freddy rise up and win. Because in the end, we see Jason rise out of the lake with Freddy's head in his hand. Then Freddy just does a wink to the audience, and then we hear his cackle. But there's an alternate ending where we do see Freddy actually return. So, yeah. But they went with the ending, which I do prefer better, where Jason comes out of the lake with Freddy's head in his hand. So, yes. Freddy vs. Jason. I always would have liked to have seen Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash with Bruce Campbell. And, there's been talks about it happening for years. I think they can still do it. Convince Robert Englund to be Freddy one last time. Kane Hodder back as Jason. And Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams in the ultimate face-off. Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash. That needs to happen. So, yes, back to Freddy vs. Jason. I'm going to give Freddy vs. Jason a nice big... I'm going to give it 6.5 out of 10. Because I do think a lot could have been done better with it. So that's my review on Freddy vs. Jason. Now for the third act of this Friday the 13th special. It is the top 10. So, let's see. Who is the best actor who has played Jason? Well, let's find out now in the top 10 Jason Voorhees. Okay, so here is the top 10 actors who have played Jason that the Horror Amino community voted for. It was a poll I set up about 2 weeks ago or so. Let's get over the countdown. At number 10 we have Tom Morgan. Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning, 1985. He played Jason in the opening scene and then in the hallucination of Tommy Jarvis. At number 9 we got Richard Brooker. Friday the 13th, Part 3, 1982. Where Jason made his signature look with the hockey mask and the machete. At number 8 we have Derek Mears, Friday the 13th, 2009, the remake Jason. And he was a big bad ass. Wasn't a bad remake, I thought. Okay, next at number 7 we have Dick Durand, the Jason Voorhees copycat, Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. Basically, he wore a jumpsuit, a machete, and a hockey mask. Same kind of hockey mask, no red chevron there, and just 2 blue cheek chevrons. I think that's what they're called. And then he also played Roy the paramedic in it. At number 6, we have Earl Lehman, Friday the 13th, the original, 1980. Yes, he was the original Jason. He played Jason only in 2 scenes though, the flashback in Pamela's mind and the ending scene where he jumps out of the water and grabs Alice. Okay, what do we have next? Number 5. Number 5 it is Warrington Gillett. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Friday the 13th, Part 2, 1981. Yes, where Jason made his big proper killer debut with the bag on his head, killing those campers, those cheeky, dirty, filthy teenagers. Haha. So yes, him. In fourth place we got, so we're in the top 5. In number 4 it is Ted White, Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. Yeah, said to be the final one, but it wasn't. At number 3 we got CJ Graham, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, 1986. Oh yeah, Part 4 was 1983. No, 1984. Back to CJ Graham, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, where Jason became the most big, badass, undead killer. Yeah! So him. Who's in second place, I hear you ask? At number 2, it is Ken Kirzinger, Freddy vs. Jason, 2003. Yes, he was a good Jason. I like the look of him, but I really think the role should have been Kane Hodder's, as he owned it by then. And you know, the production team of Freddy vs. Jason didn't want him back. And it was Kane's long life ambition to be Jason fighting Freddy. New Line, I don't think, did Jason any favours, and I really wish Kane Hodder had better storylines to work with when he was Jason during his run. Before we get to my number 1 pick, let's just throw in some honourable mentions, and they go to Steve Descombe-Wise, if I'm pronouncing that right, Caleb Guest, and Dan Bradley. Okay, at number 1 it is, they voted, which I also agreed with, and I voted, Kane Hodder. Yes, Friday the 13th, Part 7 to Jason X. He played the best Jason, I think, and he really made it his own part. You know, the longest running Jason that's actor who's ever played Jason and probably ever will. You know, he just took that role and made it his own, like I've just said already, playing Jason in Part 7, but of course that's when the stories got a bit silly, but Kane Hodder, he delivered as Jason. You know, I was rooting for him, you know, throughout all the films. Even though when New Line bought it, it was getting all the way downhill. Parts, you know, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, not my favourite ones. So yes, that was the top 10 voted by the Horror Amino community. Do you want a top 10? What is it? So that has been my top 10 for this Friday the 13th special. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for my Friday the 13th special, part 4, the final chapter. If you want to see any of my previous Friday the 13th specials from last year, parts 1, 2 and 3, and the series I did as the build-up to part 3 of my Friday the 13th specials, 13 Days of Friday, you can watch all that right now, linked down below in the description. Also, be sure to follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, so you can stay up to date with me and see what I get up to outside of the YouTube world. And also, that's going to be linked down below. So please, what's your favourite Friday film? Also, what actor would you say is the best Jason? Please let me know. So please like, share, comment and subscribe. And until next time, goodbye friends, and a happy Friday the 13th to you.